So for the current event topic, I decided to do the legalization of marijuana. I did this because of the many viewpoints that people have on it and how it will affect our future, like our generation directly because of everything that they're working with now. Before starting the project, I didn't really have a definite opinion on the legalization of marijuana, but now after the research that I did and all the things that I've found out, I have a better feel for what legalizing marijuana can actually do for the medical field and for the patients that will use it. So in the past year, it has been legalized in Colorado for recreational purposes, and one of the huge impacts it's had is that like a lot of people traveled to Colorado to buy their dope. So there are like these huge lines, as you can see in some of the pictures, where like people are just standing in line, which they're probably waiting hours in, just to buy some weed. Like the same thing in Washington, they legalized it for recreational purposes. And to add on to that, it's also legal in a lot of other states, I think 29 states, for medicational purposes. So these aren't all in the past year, as you can tell, because there's Whitney Houston and the Rolling Stones. But there's some celebrities that we know have used, have been on weed. So there's Miley Cyrus, Lady Gaga, and Snoop Dogg, which we all know are very good role models. So, yeah. And then the quote down below there, I found that in an ESPN article. So I have this little video. So hopefully it'll load because the last few times I tried it didn't.
Let's talk about marijuana and your brain. It's a rather complicated process, so let's start off with what's familiar to you. THC. THC is the chemical in weed that gets you high. You feel lightheaded, feel giddy, sometimes relaxed. Marijuana, you can smoke it, you can eat it in an extract of food, you can inhale it with a vapor pen, or consume it in an oil form. It's especially good for little kids who are taking it as a medicine. No matter the method, THC goes through your bloodstream and into your brain. And there, the THC is going to latch onto these special receptors. When they are stimulated, you release dopamine. It sends signals to various nerve cells all around your body and makes the user feel high. Not all cannabis is going to get you stoned. That's because marijuana contains another chemical known as CBD. That's cannabidiol. Marijuana plants that have low THC and high CBD can work really well as a medicine. They can treat things like epilepsy, pain, the ravages of multiple sclerosis, chemotherapy-induced nausea, all sorts of different things. It works because the CBD chemical requires excessive electrical and chemical activity in the brain. I know this 3-year-old girl who went from having 300 seizures a week to 2 per month after her parents gave her cannabis with high levels of CBD. When it comes to marijuana, there's some 500 different chemical compounds. All these compounds work together. It's something known as the entourage effect. It's important because you can't just take a chemical out of marijuana and make a medicine. You need the whole plant, especially when it comes to using pot instead of pills.
And so an interesting thing that like I did or found out was I watched this documentary on the little girl who was having the seizures, and it was really, really intense. And she actually almost died from some of the medication that they were previously giving her. So it was a huge decision that they chose to use marijuana to as like medicine. So, but it did really help her. So I have another video. This video doesn't have the best quality for like the first few minutes, so sort of with it.
free herbs in states, at least for now. Early Friday morning, the House passed an amendment with a block of drug enforcement from spending money going after medical marijuana operations that are legal under state laws. The state was amended enacted the law. The officials will be unable to arrest state licensed medical marijuana patients and providers. Public prosecutor Laura Barker is behind the amendment at the this is the most incredible debate that you had over half the states and what local every argument that was presented and decided against what you just heard. There are doctors in every one of those states that participated and had long debate over this and found exactly the opposite of what we've heard today. Some people are suffering, and if a doctor feels that he needs to prescribe something to alleviate that suffering, we get them moral for this government to get in the way. And that's what's happening. The state government has that doctor have a right to the biggest basic human rights, and so do our founding fathers. I ask for support for my amendment. Now, Laura Barker must be the only one. Before the House vote, Representative Poland spoke out against raising what he considers to be the DEA's already high funds. He said, quote, why was singling out the DEA to receive funds above what the DEA itself requested in the president's budget? The DEA has demonstrated time and time again that it can't sufficiently manage the resources it already has. Joining me now to tell us more about this and other political stories of the day is congressional reporter Mike McCullough. Good morning, Mike. Good morning. So let's talk about this amendment. It still has to go on to the Senate before it can actually become an official law, but what do you make of the vote here by the House? Well, I think it shows that things are starting to, thaw out on the deep freeze on sort of medical marijuana in Congress. You had a coalition of sort of libertarian-leaning Republicans and a bunch of Democrats who voted for that. And, in the Senate, in some ways they're a little bit more conservative and a little bit slower over there. And I haven't heard a whole lot of agitation for passing something like that. But with the message from the House, I'm pretty sure that when the Senate comes back next week, we'll start hearing a little bit more talk about whether or not that should be addressed. And of course, they have to pass it's a big package of bills that fund the commerce, justice, and science initiatives of the government. So they'll have to take that up, and I bet you'll hear people talking about it. Yeah, well, you could say that it's about time, too, right? As we've seen so many states across the country pass either medicinal marijuana laws or now with Colorado and Washington leading the way for recreational marijuana legalization. This whole question of are federal laws going to finally catch up? What are the feds going to do? It seems like it's starting to be answered. So the thing is, the medicinal marijuana was the only thing that the House voted on. Members of Congress also blocked the DEA from interfering with states' legal industrial hemp research. And this move comes less than a month after the department intercepted hemp seeds for Kentucky's pilot program. So what do you think about that? Well, honestly, that one seems like it could move quicker than the medical marijuana issue because that hemp seizure that you're talking about was in Kentucky, and that's the home state of Mitch McConnell, the Senate minority leader, and he would very much like to see the sort of business of hemp proceed in his state because it's a jobs issue, right? So he'll be able to get some more support for that in the upper chamber, and that seems like a fairly easy one to push ahead with. The bigger question about marijuana, I think some lawmakers, especially in statewide positions, are a little bit more nervous about it. But you see the polls changing. The support for medical marijuana and even recreational marijuana grows in just about every poll I see, and that pushes politicians. So we'll see. For once, popular opinion is actually swaying politicians. It's so rare. Right? It's so rare on Capitol Hill these days. They seem to be much more interested in their agenda than in what the public actually wants. Right.
Alright, so popular opinions. There are a lot of people who are for both recreational marijuana and medical marijuana, and then there are some people who are just for medical marijuana. And then there are those people that do not want marijuana at all. And it's it's really funny to sort of hear like the different arguments that people have and how like sometimes it sounds like they're saying the same thing, but it's it's actually pretty entertaining. But so yeah, those are pretty much the general viewpoints. So, and I have another video, and this one actually tells you what the guy is saying from the video that we just watched. So.
The House of Representatives in Washington passed a resolution that would end all funding for federal raids on legal medical marijuana dispensaries. The move came as an amendment to a little-noticed bill sponsored by Sam Farr, a Democrat, and Republican Dana Rohrabacher, both from California. It passed on a vote of 219 to 189. Most Democrats voted in favor of the amendment, with the majority of Republicans opposed. With 49 members of the GOP favoring the move, it passed the full House. This is the first time the lower house of Congress has ever approved such a measure. The original bill provides funding to several government agencies, including the Justice Department. That agency enforces federal marijuana prohibition in states that have legalized the natural medicine. Dan Riffle, the Marijuana Policy Project, told the press, quote, "Congress is officially pulling out of the war on medical marijuana patients and providers. Federal tax dollars will no longer be wasted arresting seriously ill medical marijuana."
Sorry.
Marijuana patients and those who provide to them. There are still several hurdles to be overcome before the spigot of federal dollars for such raids is shut off. The spending bill will need to clear the democratically controlled Senate, which would need to be signed by.
Sorry, this actually sounds like it might take a while.
The president. This amendment may signal a change in worldview from federal lawmakers concerning cannabis. As Rohrabacher told Congress, quote, "If a doctor feels that he needs to prescribe something to alleviate that suffering, it is immoral for this government to get in the way." Steve Cohen, a 65-year-old Democratic congressman from Tennessee, stated, quote, "Marijuana does not make people commit crime. It makes them overeat."
So why we should care? Like I said in the beginning, this affects our future, and the decisions that they make now will impact what we will be living with when we're older. Also, because many kids are starting to become like introduced to marijuana, and it does have an impact on their lives. So I have a few charts. So this one, like the past month prevalence of marijuana use for kids who are 12 through 17 years old. So you can see that. And then there was also this chart, which I found interesting, which was that it looks a little over 30% of the reasons kids are expelled is because of they have marijuana on them. So these are my sources, and hope you enjoyed that.